People in weird armor recall themselves saviors battling a huge dragon-type monster. Amidst the devastating devastation to the reserves, a guy recalls the past lives of two women, saying that he remembers and that he would vanquish everyone who betrays his values. You know your boy is going to have his harem when your anime starts with him fighting for his harem. We go back to 6 months before the scene where we're in school and the principal is giving the orientation speech about how they're selected to be saviors because they can recall their memories and they have a special power, anime stuff. Our protagonist dozes into a dream about one-shotting an army and kissing a pink-haired girl. He suddenly awakens to find the same girl standing before him. She catbutts him, sending him sprawling and sending a cluster of chairs crashing to the floor. He recognizes her as Saresha upon realizing she is the one from his dream. She recognizes him as Flaga, jumping into him and calling him Nai-sama. But we find out that our protagonist calls himself Moroha and reveals that he can't really remember his past life. Pink Hair recommends headbutting him again when they both hear a commotion and turn to see a purple-haired girl on the floor. As Moroha attends to her, she mutters "Shu Sora" and kisses him immediately. Damn, he must have been a Sigma in his past life. Sarasha snaps out of her jealousy. Sarasha and Purple Hair argue. Moroha tries to settle the fight when Shizuno asks him what he thinks of her lips. He tells her she is devaluing women. Sorry, boys, our protagonist ain't Sigma. Sarasha is offended by Moroha and yaps out of the room crying. During their first class, the teacher tries to call out each student for introduction, but Sarasha calls herself out as Satsuki, claiming to want to be the second strongest, foreshadowing, but is met with unfavorable remarks as to why people should follow her. Moroha saves Satsuki by reminding the teacher that they need to take attendance as the class will soon end. The girl they both met in the theater is called out as Shizuno Rushibara, but she's fast asleep again. Moroha meets Satsuki, who swiftly asks him on a date after school, but he tries to dodge by telling her that he plans to find a job, but she reminds him that the school doesn't allow it. I don't know, but this anime incest thing be weird sometimes. They meet Shizuno on a ride at the Coliseum and their instructor informs them of the two kinds of Plana, light skills and dark mages. They all have to learn how to use light skills by channeling Plana into their body. Apparently, since they had former lives, they should be able to use it, but they all end up suffering, with the exception of Satsuki and a bald guy who argues and starts a sparring fight. Baldi wipes the floor with Satsuki's ass, calling her weak. Satsuki flees in embarrassment. The scene shifts to Moroha and Satsuki in a fast food joint. Satsuki brings up her downs in life and how she's had no friends due to moving from place to place because of metaphysical attacks. Adding additionally to the dreams of her prior existence, she looked for a school for the saviors to find Moroha, who was Flaga in her memories. She asks Moroha to chastise her but is interrupted by Shizuno, who starts eating her french fries, with Moroha doing the same. This scene was wholesome, but the writing, damn. Well, we've seen worse. Satsuki is annoyed that Shizuno interrupts their bonding time, but Shizuno ignores her remarks and moves up to Moroha, placing his face between her ope and asking him if this devalues women as well. The two girls get into a one-sided dispute, up to the point where Shizuno teases Satsuki on her lady parts. Shizuno releases Moroha and tosses him to Satsuki, who does as Shizuno, stroking Moroha on her breasts. Size, fan service. Nothing as perverted as that. After saying that she was too bony, lol, she runs out shouting that she no longer cares for him. Moroha praises Shizuno for making her feel better, but she then leaves, commenting that it's not time yet, foreshadowing. Oh my god, it's becoming so predictable. We go back to school, where Moroha confronts Baldi, by the way his name is Ishuguri, and asks that he apologize to Satsuki. But Ashirigi claims he will only apologize if he can hit him once and tosses him weapons to fight. Satsuki, on the other hand, was just finishing her shower when Shizuno breached privacy rules to inform her of the situation. The two arrive at school to see the battle. As Ishirigi wipes his ass with Moroha, Shizuno informs Satsuki that Moroha is fighting for her, and that she will not let her look away. Woo! Scary. During the struggle, after being pinned to the ground, Moroha regains a memory of him and Satsuki. Subsequently, Satsuki calls him the guardian of the Holy Sword. He then remembers assuring her that he would always come home to her, no matter how perilous the war was. When she shouts again that she will give him a kiss if he wins, he states that he gains his powers and defeats her. You know, typical harem anime. Moroha faints but is caught by Satsuki. In the stands, the principal Mary says Ancient Dragon, where the girl briefly describes what it is. I'm guessing the anime is from her perspective. Moroha recalls a memory of him and Suzuki about to kiss, but wakes up in the school clinic kissing a child. 2 questions. How did he know he was kissing the lips of a child in his dream? And how is this anime still legal? The teacher explained that she was transferring energy through her mouth. Also, we find out that Satsuki is also around the corner, all tied up. The principal explains that Moroha was an ancient dragon, which he doesn't remember. She also explains that the theory is that he probably has had 2 previous lives, owing to his ability to use a Stage 3 dark art after activating his powers. But Loli tells Moroha he foresees bad things for him with women, and then the principal and her leave. After leaving the clinic, Satsuki tries to kiss Moroha, but is interrupted by Shizuno, who kisses him instead. Satsuki is in a fit of rage, and Loli is spying in the corner. Satsuki finally shared contact info with someone other than her parents. Today's a good day. However, her conversation with Moroha and Shizuno is quickly interrupted when they're summoned by the typical perfect guy in an anime. You already know this anime is going places when the troops are frequent. Apparently, Moroha and Shizuno have been raised to rank C, and this means he gets to serve on some special team called the Strikers, students who stay under the perfect guy and fight monsters, also known as the Metaphysicals. Moroha hesitates to join up, but he is absolutely won over by the pay. Unfortunately, we don't get to hear what that amount is. Satsuki, for being the stalker she is, then asks if she could join as well, but the leader of the Strikers rejects her quickly. Once again, foreshadowing of her joining the team. We meet a team full of typical people who would become irrelevant later on. But for now, they're the strongest team in the Japanese branch. Even stronger in the White Agency, who are the adults. Moroha and Shizuno, or maybe just Shizuno, undergo a series of training sessions. On their way home, they meet Satsuki, who has been waiting for them. She tells Moroha all about a super cheap okonomiyaki place. The broke boy is excited, but Shizuno quickly shoots down the idea. According to her, he has to rest and all, and eating okonomiyaki is hard work. He confronts Shizuno about her attitude of trying to think for him, and he runs off to meet Satsuki. During the weekend, Satsuki asks Shizuno to accompany the mall so that she can buy something special for their man. They seem to be quite undecided about it. As Satsuki goes to buy ice cream and she remembers how she used to eat ice cream with her Nai-san, a giant serpent metaphysical appears. Shizuno seems to be afraid for no reason while Satsuki undergoes her Sailor Moon transformation. And I think it was an 80s anime at this point. The art style wasn't its strongest point, but at least it put in some effort in the fight scenes. Moving forward, we find out that Shizuno has gotten out of her fear and has contacted Moroha and the Strikers. What they didn't realize is that they were dealing with a multi-headed serpent, or is it just many snakes? Well, I didn't care while watching it. Boy, I'm sure I'm going to see some 13-year-old writing a 1,000-word essay in the comment section. Anyways, Shizuno finally tries to help out, but she finds the lower half of her body turning to stone. The Strikers quickly become useless when Moroha asks them why they haven't gotten in for the action. That was quick. Damn, the writing is, damn. We then see a scene in which Moroha has lost his parents, and he can't do anything to help because he is too young. So the lone hero goes to save his harem. As we wait, we get the Tentacles fan service scene. Do enjoy, our hero finally arrives in a typical badass entrance. Shizuno says something about Moroha's secret power, and he conveniently remembers. Yo, I thought she was turning to stone. How exactly is she moving? Anyways, his powers require an incantation and writings on the air. Long story short, he defeats all the beasts. We end up in a scene where the leader of the Strikers and Baldi's brother Ishiguro Jin invites Satsuki into the reserve. She was brave, so she gets pulled into the group anyway. Once again, that was really quick. Moroha asks Shizuno what their relationship status was in a past life, but the girl changes the subject, foreshadowing. We see Shizuno being praised for her work on infiltrating the school. In fact, she was also able to rise up the ranks with her friends. Apparently, she denies Moroha and Satsuki are friends, calling them acquaintances. You know that your anime is about to have a betrayal or a redemption arc when they start bringing up a secret evil family dish. The man sitting on the chair in the typical evil organization smirks. Shizuno is snapped back to reality, and Moroha and Satsuki ask if there's anything wrong with her. She declines, and they talk about how Moroha might rise up the ranks because of his single-handed defeat of the snakes. He used the humble protagonist gesture of including his harem in praise for alerting the attention of the people and also turning to a statue. Shizuno explains that only the rank S could do that. Funny to know that a blonde guy with dark shades and a manic dressing style comes into the room. I'm sure you're thinking what I'm thinking. He requests tea in English, confusing the waiter. Luckily, Satsuki replies to him in English, only for him to reply back in Japanese. I swear I thought that was funny, probably the death of humor in me. Anyways, they give him the kitchen's delicacy drink, which he takes and spits out, calling it an insult to tea. While at the counter, Shizuno notices a time pause and he cannot see Blondie anymore. He turned and saw he was moving quickly and was about to punch Moroha. Time resumes only for a gush of wind to hit the entire restaurant. I guess we found our S rank. Only a few questions. If time stops, how can drops of water still move? Yes, yes, let the geeks explain in the comments. Anyways, Blondie is Sir Edward Lampard, one of the 6 heads and heads of the British headquarters, and the move he made was a light skill that's rare. Sir Edward actually came to visit the school to see the Golden Boy. We get a fan service scene with Shizuno and Satsuki. Just watch it if you're interested. On the way to the Colosseum, we meet our lowly Maya, who is a savior but too young to be in the school. She's related to the principal too. I guess we're seeing our protagonist's harem taking shape. We cut into a group session at the Colosseum with the 1st and 2nd year students. Apparently, some kami guy is jealous of Moroha taking the spotlight, so he challenges Moroha to a sparring match. We all know how that went. Maya tricks Moroha to go to the principal's office. They both talk about how Shizuno's family is a huge part of this school, and they're trying to gain more influence by trying to get her to be an executive in the Japan branch. Obviously, she was sad until our Golden Boy came around. Moroha is sleeping at the school park when Shizuno sees him. She smiles. Meanwhile, Moroha dreams of his life as Shusora and how he made a whole kingdom freeze in a second. Moroha asks her if he's afraid of him. Apparently, he calls her the Witch of the Netherworld in the dream. Let's just say the dream feels really real to him. And we find out he's deep in Shizuno's ope. Ignoring the fan service, he asks her if she's the Witch of the Netherworld and she declines. After a few more cringeworthy scenes, Satsuki jumps in to save us with her personality. We're taken into a scene where Sir Edward and his female driver, the typical troupe, are discussing the issue that may come up because he refuses to believe the fact that it wasn't only Moroha who defeated the metaphysical. We found out that his meddling may cause international diplomatic issues. Anyway, it seems the driver has a crush on Sir Edward, and they both order takeout. Moroha is invited by Shizuno's family, and Shizuno, her brother, and Moroha have dinner. During their talk, Shizuno's brother expresses his desire to have Moroha in the S rank, and the only requirement is that he admits he single-handedly defeated the beast. He declines but becomes hesitant when he hears there's enough pay to help his aunt. Shizuno tries to cut by explaining that Moroha would no longer have a life again, but her brother cuts her short. We see a scene in her room where she reminisces about her past life as a child slave and her encounters with Moroha. They both go outside to see the scenery, and Moroha regains a scene from his past life with her. He's on his way home in a car when he sharply notices a figure on a bike following his trail. He stops and decides to take a walk, thankful for the good meal packaged for him. He calls the figure out, and they both have a fight. Then he notices that the figure is a woman. She throws an attack at him, but he dissipates it after briefly remembering a similar experience in the past. Fan service again. Anyways, we then cut to a scene of Shizuno lying in bed and smiling. We get to hear the conversation between Edward Lampard and Shizuno's brother. Apparently, it was Shizuno who sent his driver to test him. He says that he cannot nominate him for rank S because he is a disappointment. Meanwhile, the driver is hiding her injuries. Shizuno's brother asks how he would explain his being able to defeat a dreadnought metaphysical, and he recommends asking if the other two with him are probably very good. Moro returns to his dorm and finds out that Maya is his new roommate. I don't know if this is surprising anymore, but it was the decision of the principal. I really need to be on the high the author must be on. How did this anime even get approved? She legit said, "Think of me as your warm, soft pillow." Shizuno's brother tells her that she will be studying abroad in England because of their lack of dark mages. Shizuno refuses, but she's held down by her family bonds. She goes on with the whole day of meeting the new addition of the harem and going for lunch without telling Moroha or the others. Of course, Moroha finds out about this. He contacts her and confirms if she's okay with it. Moroha eventually smashes into Shizuno's family home like a boss. He declared his intentions of entering the S-rank post by telling them that he single-handedly defeated that metaphysical, saving both Shizuno and Satsuki, sparing Shizuno and Satsuki. She confronts him, wondering why he would lose his freedom for someone who deserves to go to hell. He said he couldn't care less about her memories as he only knows the Shizuno of now. He then asks Shizuno what she wants to do in life, and she wants to stay with Moroha as in her past memories now and forever. Now that's a redeemable quality in the anime. Moroha picks Shizuno up and jumps off the second floor of the house. Maya and Satsuki are there in a red Corvette to pick them up. I wonder where they stole it from? Anyways, we finally see Shizuno smile. Shizuno's brother is shocked at the whole thing and finally sucks up to Edward, formally giving him the license to meddle in Japan. You know, Edward is cooking up some nice British tea with salty crackers when you see the smirk on his face. So Edward comes up to them, and he and Moroha have a fight in the mountains. At first, Moroha was losing really badly. Then we see the Deus Ex Machinas appear. Maya puts up a barrier in the region so that Moroha can fight at his best. I don't even get what was stopping him in the first place. He starts fighting seriously, shattering Edward's sword. That's when we find out that Edward has a second dog tag. He uses his second dog tag, which gives him knight armor that makes him impenetrable. However, Moroha remembers his time with Shizuno, who was apparently his wife in the past life. Then he brings in the attack we saw in his memory of freezing people all at once. Apparently, it's a level 8 attack that only the head of Russia can do. Maybe even more, according to Shizuno. His ultimate attack freezes up Edward and everyone unfortunate enough to be in the mountains. We meet in what seems like the principal's office, and Maya is trying to treat the injuries Satsuki sustained from the battle. We need to find out that they stole the principal's Corvette. Nice. Also, Edward concedes and Shizuno is allowed to stay in Japan. He also wonders why Edward didn't dodge his punch, and we get a really pleasant twist. He knows how to tell people's intentions by their plana. He laughs and nominates Moroha to be a candidate for S rank. Now, a month after the incident with Sir Edward Lampard, summer vacation is about to start. You know what that means. Fan service. According to their captain, Ishiguro Jin, they are going for training. The vice captain of the Strikers, a strange woman, warns Moroha and the other players. She tries to rape Moroha and keeps groping his butt and asking him to go on swimsuit shopping, blah blah blah, you get the gist. Satsuki is planning to get a sexy swimsuit, Shizuno and her family are planning to seduce Moroha, and Moroha is weirdly in a bikini, checking out his senpai, Momo, who can apparently keep up with Moroha's speed. The beach is what you expect from an anime like this. Fan service. Let's just talk about the fact that they're here for training. Momo agrees to compete with Satsuki so that she can accompany Moroha to training sessions. Momo is the only one who can practice with Moroha and keep up with his pace because her specialty is speed. Well, another woman on the list of harem. As one might expect, Satsuki consistently loses to her. I seriously also got tired of this beach episode real quick. Too much fan service. Well, you hear from Edward that the Russian heads staunchly disagree with having Moroha join the ranks at night. Satsuki asks Moroha to teach her how to run faster. He remembers his life with her in the past and explains that he wasn't always with her because he was afraid of her potential. He also said that he was afraid of her embarrassing Momo, who has put all her hard work into speed. He does agree to teach her to run faster, and that's pretty much the episode right there. She learns to run on water and all. The rest are a ton of fanservice sequences and the eerie vice captain attempting to rape Moroha in every other scene. Meanwhile, the principal is attending a meeting where all saviors are invited, well, except the ones at the beach. Apparently, this meeting is happening while the executives of Japan are not around. A romantic moment between Moroha and Shizuno watching the fireworks and the show on a high note is included. Something also seems to be moving right below the surface of the waters. I guess this is the peace before the war kind of thing. We are brought to a discussion table between the 6 heads at the start of episode 6. Edward and Ando, the head of Japan, are in favor of Moroha becoming an S rank. The Russian and French heads are against it, being skeptical of his abilities due to the lack of documentation of his victory. We had eyewitnesses present at the scene after all, and he defeated Edward so badly that he went insane. What more evidence do you need? China and the last one who was present online are also undecided. As they are discussing, a massive metaphysical appears in the ocean off the coast of Japan, where Moroha and the others are making their camp. I need to talk about the art style. I understand that the metaphysical is an island with multiple faces, but damn, why does it look so bad? The animators really needed to learn from Studio Bones or MAPPA. Did MAPPA even exist in 2015? Well, maybe they had a limited budget, so this metaphysical is also a 300-meter creature, and it's worse than the 9-headed serpent. It's a fortress class. I'm not sure there have been any elaborate exposition or details concerning the power system in this anime, but I'm guessing it's a copycat of most anime. So yes, fortress class should be really bad. They were ordered to stop and the perfect guy didn't want his ass whooped, so they left with an escaped ship. Except that they all decided to battle and defend the islands because, well, kids will do the darndest things. Meanwhile, the other members put the Japanese head to sleep to see the juice our hero got. They devise a strategy in which they will use sound to entice it onto the island since it is most sensitive to sound, remove its legs to render it immobile, and then Moroha will deliver the killing blow with the captain's assistance. You can pretty much sum up the entire episode by saying that everyone is fighting this creature and the muds that come out of it. Did I mention how horrible this thing is with its numerous faces? The metaphysical unleashes a sonic explosion that weakens everyone, but our boy Moroha has plot armor. He suddenly recalls more of his previous existence. I think I give up on this guy, and he jumps to the top of the beast. Thank you for flying, Air Moroha. He uses his sword to carve out a massive spell circle, which once completely obliterates the metaphysical in a moment. The 6-headeds concede that Moroha is S-rank material in light of this win, but they all agree to place him on probation until his 3 years of school are over, after which he'll be joining the Japanese ranks. We all know that there will be a large-scale apocalyptic battle before that time. Anyway, that's me speaking from the omniscient perspective. The episode ends with a fan service battle between Satsuki and their rival. The episode opens with a Russian transfer student declaring her love for Moroha Himura. When she sends him a love letter, he believes it's a trap to get him to get closer. Himura is kind of shocked by her direct approach after their brief introduction and asks him out on a date, but Elena assures him it's not a trap. She keeps us this soldier vibes when she speaks. I wonder if the Japanese assumption is that all Russians are in some kind of Soviet Union ecosystem. Himura then informs her that he doesn't know her well enough to go out with her. She responds with a feeling of depression and hopelessness, saying she wants to die. Himura assures her that they can begin as friends. Once again, he may be adding another to his harem list. That's if she isn't a spy. Let's see which predictions are right. The Russian student enters the classroom just before the lesson is set to begin. The point is to make us see she's cute, but do they need to submit to the fan service? Anyway, she greeted the class and introduced herself as Elena Arshavina. She claims that at the Russia branch her name was Lesia. Satsuki asks Elena if Russian people have their dad's names and their last names. In response, Elena states that she is parentless. Arshavina is just the name of the facility in which she was raised. Once again, do Japanese folks think of Russia like North Korea? Satsuki feels bad, but Elena assures her that she's not living alone and that she has a younger brother. Later, Shizuno Roshibara, a different student, queries her about whether she has any transferring objectives to their class, such as headhunting, investigation, kidnapping, or assassination. I mean, we are in an anime, of course. Give the German or Russian, maybe Chinese, a suspicion. Elena responds that her goal is to date Himura, shocking the students. It makes the harem team uncomfortable, so Satsuki rushes down to her to let her know that she is allowed to do that. Elena replies that she has already confessed to Moroha, which shocks the class and makes the boys jealous. Satsuki responds by saying that she is his sister. Elena says she was shocked to find out that Moroha had such a cute younger sister, and that flattered the Satsuki. Satsuki snaps out of her blush and says that it's besides the point. No one is allowed to date in without her permission. Elena eventually politely asks for her permission, which takes her off guard again. Man, as much as I understand that comedy in Japan has the vibe of only a single person being the straight man, doesn't it feel too unoriginal sometimes? Anyway, Shizuno cuts in to ask why she has interest in Moroha. She replies that it's love at first sight. Satsuki says that's not a good enough reason, so Elena asks Shizuno what she likes about Moroha, and she says everything. I think you already know where this is going. The class is in an uproar, the teacher is confused, Himura Moroha feels uncomfortable about the disturbances. Sit tight, guys, we're in for a treat of an episode. Let's see how well our new harem girl fits into the bunch. Himura and the other pupils moved on to their training lessons in the next class. The rest of this scene is your typical Isekais. Do well to enjoy it when you watch it. Elena proposes a date to Himura after school. When Elena arrived the following day, Himura went out with her. She was taken aback to see that Elena was dressed like a maid, as Himura had assumed that the Japanese boys would be attracted to clumsy girls dressed like that. She believed that learning about Japanese culture would make it easier for her to fall in love with Himura. Then Satsuki calls Himura to tell her that, although she had intended to arrive sooner, she had to assist her senior, Sophie, who had broken her arm during church prayers and was unable to cook. As a result, Satsuki is helping out, so she cancels. Himura and Elena alone began on their date as they headed to the fast food restaurant Whack-Donald, an obviously McDonald's reference and an escape from lawsuits. While eating a burger, she admits that it's delicious, and she has never been to McDonald's since Russians picked up their saviors from a tender age and trained them military style. Honestly, I think Russia would. She asks him if he thinks she's out to assassinate him and replies no. Weirdly enough, this reminds her of Sir Edward. They both take pictures from a photo booth and play claw crane games. Elena believes it's rigged, but Moroha wins a stuffed doll, which he gave Elena as a gift. They view a movie afterward. Finally, they took a rest at a park and talked about their earlier experiences. Later on, they make a pledge to one another to introduce their families. Meanwhile, Shizuno gets info from Sir Edward's driver that she's actually a man-eater. Kondrad, a crow, visits Elena at night, speaking with her in Russian about the mission. Elena set out to approach Himura in order to identify his weak point, his loved ones. The crow Kondrad will report to the Lightning Emperor at the end of the assignment, after which she gets to spend time with her younger brother. Well, that was unexpected. The following day at school, Elena finds a letter in her locker. She gets to the place of the letter Pi to find out the author is Shizuno. According to Shizuno, Elena is a man-eater, a savior-killing savior. The two engage each other head-on in combat, using their respective skills. It seemed like a one-sided victory for Shizuno until Elena summons her demon blade, Replazin, and deflects Shizuno's freezing shade, absorbing her blows. Elena, who ultimately prevailed in the fight, orders Shizuno to keep her arrangements with Himura out of the way. Alina swiftly ran out of sight as a male counselor broke up the fight. Maya tells Shizuno that Leshia will be placed under house arrest, so Moroha, Satsuki, and Maya start paying the girls visits. When Moroha first sees Shizuno, she is deeply injured on her right leg. He is taken aback by what Shizuno reveals regarding Leshia's identity and her objective. Shizuno begs Moroha to cease being alert about the man-eater, saying that even if he knows the truth, he will never change because he understands that deep down Alina is not a bad person. Moroha worries about Shizuno and advises her to exercise caution herself. In another scene, Kondrat, who's now a cat, wakes Alina from her visions and reminds her to complete her goal as soon as possible so that she can reunite with her younger brother. Alina received a visit from Moroha and Satsuki, who fed her Satsuki's risotto. Moroha and his pals are taking turns looking after Alina over the full week until she recovers. Maya cleans her up one day, telling Alina that she's going to be a future harem. I think she's already. Sophie comes up next, who encourages her to join the Japanese branch of saviors. But Leshia can't betray her brother, so she says no. In any case, Sophie accepts Leshia's choice, but she tells Leshia that she will become friends with everyone in Japan if she stays a little while longer. Alina asks him for another date after the break. As they go to the park, Alina tells Moroha who she is, and they are both forced to fight. Alina's speed and strength initially overwhelm Moroha, but Moroha uses his power of plot convenience to defeat Alina. Meanwhile, Sophie interrupts Shizuno and Satsuki as they go to save Moroha. As Shizuno continues to confront Sophie, Satsuki gives her the all-clear. Moroha defeats Sophia by magically breaking her weapon, thanks to another plot convenience. You know what? What's the ratings of this anime on my NM list? Oh, I see. 6.8. Makes sense. At the height of their conflict, Moroha convinces Alina to go save her brother. Shizuno steps in, though, and breaks the terrible news that Alina was born alone and never had a brother. As Alina accuses Shizuno of talking gibberish, Kondrat appears in front of the three. When Kondrat reveals that Alina's brother was really a fabrication created to control Alina and comes to the conclusion that manipulating human emotions is simple, Moroha becomes extremely disgusted. Alina gets upset at her fake past, so Kondrat takes advantage of her by controlling her and using her to battle Moroha, but the possessed Alina seems to be using his weakness of harem. Moroha, though, reverses the situation by smashing Leprazum. I think it's a pretty cool name, and using his abilities to release Alina from Kondrat's control, breaking her dog tag in the process. Alina cries in Moroha's arms as he carries her, weakening in his arms and promising her that he will be the reason she survives. Alina is moved by this statement. In Russia, Kondrat screams in pain after being severely blinded by Moroha's slash, and is then executed by a lightning strike by the Lightning Emperor, who is either frustrated that she's losing or disgusted that the loser had the right to touch her dress. Alina escapes from her dorm at night and meets Moroha along the road. She hugs Moroha and he whispers, "Sleep near death," to put her to sleep. Always having the right powers at the right moment, huh? Moroha contacts Edward to inform him that he has decided to wage war with the Russian branch alone. The omniscient Loli's voice ends the episode again. In Russia. Moroha beats the ass of a guy named Bernard. I guess he's in charge of the Russian unit. He also tells Angela, Edward's Simpress, he won't be killing anyone in this war, so he takes him prisoner. Moroha queries Bernard on the Lightning Empress whereabouts, but Bernard mocks Moroha for being a native Japanese person and refuses to respond. After making fun of Bernard, Moroha stabs him in the abdomen. At first, I thought we would finally be seeing his villain arc, but Moroha explains to Angela that it is because Bernard is in an A-rank position. The stabbing would not be lethal, but Bernard is left bleeding on the ground. Aja questions Moroha about the naivety and absurdity of his declaration of war on Russia during their train journey in search of the Lightning Empress. As everything is going on, an injured Bernard informs his boss, Vasilisa, of his defeat. Furious at his lack of success, the Lightning Empress sentences Bernard to death. Bernard willingly accepts her execution as a sign of his deep devotion to his commander and also a display of her power before he and the crumbling palace perish. After Bernard's passing, 3 guys are summoned by the Lightning Empress. One of them questions her about strengthening defenses in Russia's eastern regions to keep Moroha away from her home. In response, the cold bastard says she would have her operatives enforce Krasnoyarsk, leaving the east side of Siberia. Meanwhile, an unnecessary scene between Moroha and AJ. The huge amount of filler in this anime is enough to write a new story. Meanwhile, in school, Shizuno interrupts Alina and Satsuki as they are debating who is really Moroha's younger sister. Nevertheless, the girls hope Moroha wins in Russia. To the surprise of AJ, who had first counted 7, Moroha kills most of the Russian assassins station by station until they reach Krasnoyarsk, where he finds 8 more assassins after the pair. Moroha flees to a deserted area in Russia and faces his initial 7 attackers. The head of the Krasnoyarsk branch, Krizan Romanovich Pavlyuchenko, informs Moroha that although they didn't want to fight against Moroha, they also didn't want to disobey the Empress, so Moroha should just leave Russia. But we all know how that goes. When allegiances need to be proven in battle, the Krasnoyarsk will have no other choice but to kill a monster for her sake, because the Empress' orders are unchangeable. Not surprisingly, despite being outnumbered 7-1, Moroha defeats them all without taking their lives. Simultaneously, Moroha witnesses Eiji engaged in combat with a ninja-looking guy, the 8th and final assassin. But as soon as the ninja dude turns to face them, the pair sees the Lightning Empress mirror counterpart chanting a magical spell. When Moroha pushes Eiji away, sensing that Vasilisa has just finished her chant, Empress strikes Moroha with her attack, taking down Moroha. She finally got him after so long of plotting. It always makes me wonder why we have to go through all the gradual fights before we see the final boss. Summonheim would only need 5 episodes if the boss just decided to do the work. Moroha is sleeping when he dreams of the disaster that struck his previous life. After Eiji uses her healing abilities to rehabilitate him, Moroha finds himself sleeping with a new person as he awakens from the nightmare. It turns out that Eiji attempted to get to Moroha and help him into safety as Vasilisa struck him with a thunderbolt. Eiji shattered the mirror, forcing the hooded ninja assassin dude to flee. Eiji took Moroha inside the next hut in an effort to save him, though he was an idiot for starting the war against Russia himself. Eiji had to spend the entire night healing Moroha after witnessing his damaged injuries. Why does her healing power require her to be naked? I guess we all know what it is. That's right, freaking fan service. Sorry, children. The Russian savior Katya, whom Moroha had battled the night before, visits Eiji and Moroha the following day and requests that Moroha save her buddy Yuli from Vasilisa. As Moroha and Eiji travel toward Yekaterinburg, Katya informs them that the majority of the Russian saviors were Vasilisa's personal bodyguards, and that as the majority had no families of their own, they were forced to obey her orders without question. However, Moroha chooses to attack Yekaterinburg by herself so as not to include the females in his conflict with the Lightning Empress. In Eiji's case, he didn't want to face Edward should Eiji encounter any misfortunes. In another scene, a ninja-hooded dude tells the Russian emperor about the fight and exposes Moroha's frailty, his kindness, and selflessness. To Moroha's astonishment, when he arrives, the emperor chooses to send him a welcoming greeting by calling her celestial crusaders to assault him. Even though there are more monsters than Moroha can count when he gets to her palace, he still defeats the majority of them until he faces the Russian saviors on the battlefield, some of whom assault Moroha against his will while the others stick behind their queen. After a bit of fighting, Yuli, the one Katya is looking for, uses her gravity powers to pin Moroha, and the Russian saviors have a window of opportunity to assault her. However, in time, Eiji, Katya, Satsuki, and Shizuno come to save the day. If that's not enough plot convenience, Elena shows up and persuades her fellow Russians to rebel against the Lightning Empress and be reborn as human beings, and it actually worked. Once Yuli is not bound by the necklace, all Russian saviors take up Moroha's fight against the Lightning Empress. As she informs her aides that Yekaterinburg will be destroyed, she resolves to stop Moroha by using her song to call forth a lightning titan. After being first overpowered by its might, Moroha utilizes Ouroboros, a move you remembered at the nick of time. How many Deus Ex Machinas are allowed in one show? To flood the whole region and then uses the water to subdue the monster, which leads to our enemy's defeat. The Lightning Empress attempted to defeat Moroha with a lightning bolt, but Moroha's Ouroboros consumed her instead after even her warriors abandoned her while she was cornered. She then begs Moroha to spare her, terrified for her life because she would not part with her priceless possession. This infuriated Moroha, who chastised the fallen Lightning Empress for stealing someone's priceless possession before abandoning her palace. The Empress concedes defeat and acknowledges that Moroha won this battle. And he did all this without killing a single person. Well, we know how it goes. It's the penultimate episode, so we'll be expecting something big sooner or later. Anyway, the story starts with the principal receiving a call and finding out that Moroha and the others are safe. Maya and the strikers rejoice before they are told that they'll need to spend the night there to tend to the new harem that our protagonist procured. Maya is saddened by it, but the principal consoles her about waiting. I still can't seem to wrap my head around how this anime is even legal. Everyone is in the sauna while AJ scolds Moroha for using forbidden spells. Moroha wonders why there's a mixed sauna, but is cut short by AJ, who tells him that it's Finland style. The harem crew finds out about AJ and Moroha's naked episode, which leads to a confrontation and subsequently a battle between Alina and Satsuki on who's the true sister to Moroha. They try to see who can outlast the other in a heated sauna. Eventually, Shizuno uses her powers to free up the sauna with him inside. Later, Moroha and Shizuno discuss a dream that Moroha had about a monstrous creature taking away all that he loves. Shizuno says that it's most likely a premonition, foreshadowing. I'm shocked that the writer couldn't find other ways to include the narrative save by remembering. It's just lazy writing, man, because a new metaphysical appeared in Russia, our hero has to stay, which saddens Maya. However, the ladies host a sleepover in Satsuki's dorm room to cheer up Maya. Now remember Ando? Yeah, the Japanese head. He feels pain whenever a metaphysical appears. After Moroha, Katya, and Yuli defeat the metaphysical, his pain still persists, making him unconscious. At least we're finally going to get to the climax. It's been a long, painful ride here. No jokes on Ando. Following that, Japan is attacked by a formidable metaphysical. And it's not just any metaphysical. It's the ancient dragon reputed to be the strongest metaphysical in existence, although they know nothing about it. The ancient dragon poses a natural threat to Moroha as, in previous incarnations, it killed both Satsuki and Shizuno for no apparent reason other than to irritate Moroha. The dragon does hate this harem, though. The dragon tries to combat the strikers, but it soon demonstrates that it is not only intelligent but also capable of using and dispelling spells. It's weird that they have to fight the final boss in just an episode, though. I'm not asking for One Piece lengthy boss fights too, but man, just 3 episodes of climax wouldn't be too bad. Also, give us a proper backstory in the next episode, will ya? Anyway, here's the Anon's last boss. The ancient dragon plays tricks on everyone in the last episode, while they wait for Moroha to come back. When a dragon comes to mess with you, you know you're enjoying the good life. Because the principal had been injured during the battle, she passed Maya the baton of creating a portal spell. When Moroha eventually appears, he looks pissed. He uses his attacks on the dragon, but his abilities are futile towards this premier beast. The dragon turns to Satsuki and Shizuno and stuff them, which makes Moroha go insane. Although it's a brilliant idea to slice the rune onto the dragon, Moroha decides to use it because spells have no effect on dragons. Unfortunately, this is a horrible decision because he intends to use a spell that will destroy the city. When you take someone else's harem, everyone loses. And so it goes. Satsuki and Shizuno's past selves appear to tell him that he's not alone, whether in the past, present, or rebirth. They're able to escape because of his love for them. He'll always be their Flaga, guardian, the Holy Sword, and Shusora. So obviously, his final form is a combination of the 2 past lives. And by the power of friendship and also the combined power of harem love, he creates a humongous sword, infuses black magic, and destroys the dragon. Ando wakes up, so we're sure it's the end. I can't believe it all ends in just one move. One move, one episode. It was such a total letdown. On the bright side, we need to end the anime. Glad there's no season 2, I think. My only fear is that they didn't answer all the questions. At least Sir Edward gets it. Beware of Charlesel, the France head. Moroha, Shizuno, and Satsuki watch Sir Edward's flight departure and leave the airport. Shizuno goes to look for her chauffeur while Moroha asks Satsuki if she really can't remember what happened when they were stoned. She says she can only remember her dream. And her dream is, as always, Moroha saving her as Sarasha. Satsuki tries to kiss Moroha but is interrupted, as usual, by Shizuno. They get to school only to see it has been largely damaged due to the battle. Moroha sees it as a way for them to make more memories. Why do I think this means an Eki-filled vacation? Shizuno, on the other hand, taunts Satsuki by letting her know that Moroha will be living in her place for a while. I'm guessing Shizuno's brother would make sure his plan of getting those children through Shizuno and Moroha is in full drive. On their way home, Satsuki runs off, allowing Shizuno to have her alone time with Moroha. Moroha tells Shizuno how he went berserk, but he cuts him off and tells him it'll be their secret before trying to kiss him. Satsuki interrupts and they both kiss him on the cheek, which sends him tumbling down the road. They both have a laugh. Japan is safe, the school is destroyed, Moroha has his girls back and will get more, and the entire school celebrates that everyone is safe. It's a wholesome scene at the end and a happy ending for everyone. Oops, I almost forgot. Our omniscient perspective finally gets the chance to hug her future harem master.